So a couple quick facts. So the Inland Empire is actually the fifth fastest growing region in California. And due to this, the rising demand of housing has driven up rent prices significantly in the Inland Empire. And then the Affordable Housing Needs report is actually going to be the foundation for our upcoming slides. And going into the pie chart right here on top, you can kind of see the differentiations in the percentages. So according to this pie chart, 61.1% of the jobs in the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim MSA are the ones that are far from meeting the income needed, as well as the 25.8% illustrates the jobs that actually do pay the income needed to sustain the average monthly rent in the Inland Empire. So kind of going into the top 5 industries, we actually snuck in a good job up there right on top, so the business and finance operations. But again, we do see that most of the jobs provided in the San Diego Carlsbad area are the ones that are far from meeting the income needed.
Since the major occupations in the Los Angeles and San Diego MSAs are offices and admin supports, so they're more capable of working remotely than the labor and retail jobs in the Inland Empire. 3 major cities in the Inland Empire, which are the Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ontario, people are driving alone at a higher rate than the other cities in other metropolitan areas.
So now looking at what is this relative to time? We look at the average commute time by MSA, and we can actually see just immediately that the Inland Empire is already the highest at commute time at 32 minutes.
And you may be wondering why the motor bus is a separate chart, that is because it's much greater in ridership than all the other types of transit. Amongst other factors, I think it's reasonable to assume that the San Bernardino line is more popular than the Riverside line. It's going to be outlined by the blue, and that is because there's more people commuting from San Bernardino because it's more inland than Riverside.
So the population in the Inland Empire is relatively young, and the majority of the population is Hispanic and Latino. As projected, 305,000 more housing units are needed to meet the region's future for the future population.
And people are moving to the Inland Empire from different counties at a higher rate of 4% versus the 2% in others. And the Inland Empire is affordable if the hourly wage is 2.3 times more than the California community minimum wage.
And due to the need for more quality jobs in the region, residents are commuting further and longer to other metropolitan areas and cities. One of the consequences of commuting from further distances is that residents become car dependent and choose to drive alone instead of carpooling or using public transit.
Now we will be talking about SB 375. And it is also called the Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Program. It was implemented in 2008. The expected outcomes was to improve public health through greenhouse gas reduction emission. So SB 743 is a transition from the level of service to the VMT metric to assess the quality of transit in the area. A quick diagram we could see here is that 1 car traveling 10 miles is 10 VMT, 2 cars traveling 2 miles is 20 VMT.
So another policy that we looked at too was this breaking the barriers to employment. So this one establishes the Breaking Barriers to Employment initiative for the purpose of assisting individuals who have multiple barriers to employment, providing them remedial education and work readiness skills, and helping the grantees to successfully participate in training, apprenticeship, or employment opportunities that will lead to sufficiency and economic stability.
SB creates new requirements for housing elements to be revised on January of 2021. So all current housing elements are due to have these requirements in their housing element. So the requirements are to conduct outreach to include public in the process, conduct an assessment of fair housing, provide a sites analysis of land for potential development, and address the jurisdiction's priorities, goals, and actions based on the previous sections as listed. And then of course, despite the Inland Empire's current state, we believe that the future is bright.
So where are we today? So Riverside County, we are a population of about 2.4 million. We are the 4th largest county in the state in size and population. We are the, I think, 10th or 11th largest county in the country in population, believe it or not. And that growth is going to continue for us when we look at projections that the Department of Finance at the state and other entities have done. In the next 15-ish or so years, maybe 20, we'll be passing up Orange County as the 3rd most populous county in California. Back in 2003, our Board of Supervisors at the time and the county adopted a landmark document, which was, we called it the RCIP, the Riverside County Integrated Plan. And that plan was based on looking at the future of growth in the county. Riverside County has two very large habitat conservation plans in the county that we're very, very proud of, where we set aside land for conservation of our species and perpetual open space into the future. So we have seen the county through our land use planning then create an environment where communities came together to form cities and to be able to speak with a community voice as to how they wanted to define their quality of life and their future planning as well. Some of the tools that the county put in place back then to help manage our growth and looking into the future were some very robust transportation funding programs. That includes our half-cent sales tax, our Measure A, that we have in Riverside County. Another important concept and plan and initiative the county put in place 20 years ago, a little bit over 20 years ago, was our Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee, TUMF. We have to come up with transportation solutions, not just at the local level, but also at the regional level. And part of that is to be able to spread the cost of that over the users of that system, the future users of that system, as equitably as possible. Development can create impacts, and those impacts need to be mitigated. And those are done sometimes directly through construction of improvements, in addition to also indirectly, if you will, or directly at a more regional level through a nexus study that's been prepared to have development, new units pay into the cost of that transportation system. We can create the infrastructure within the county to bring in the higher paying jobs, to bring in the other amenities and things that will lead to strengthening our quality of life by giving people more options where they don't have to commute out of the county, as many folks do today with long commutes, right, to seek the higher paying jobs that we see in the coastal regions. I want to talk about RENA. So we touched on the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, quite the mouthful, right? So RENA is the process by which the state, the Housing and Community Development Department at the state works with the local jurisdictions. And in our case, they work through SCAG to allocate housing targets to each of their jurisdictions. RENA, it creates a goal, if you will, an important one that local jurisdictions are look to be held to by the state. So it's a very important thing. One of the challenges for us, I'm going to switch my gear from county as a whole to the county unincorporated area, which is the area that we have land use authority. For us is aligning RENA targets with the investment that's going to be needed to actually make those units a reality. We are the third highest county unincorporated area after City of LA and County of LA. The density drives the transit, drives the transportation corridor, drives the housing, and it's like this full circle that is all connected and interrelated. It's really important to understand how those individual goals, extremely well-meaning, extremely important, all can work together towards a commonality and a common system of intended and often unintended consequences. So how do we do that? Well, we try to create the fertile ground. It's really important to remember that government does not directly build housing, okay? Housing is built through market, it's built through the development community. Government can help in several different ways. I like to use the word attainable, because I think housing attainability is the key. Attainable to me is a broader term than just affordable, right? Because affordable sometimes can imply subsidized housing, and that's critically important, and we need more of that. At the same time, we have to work together to create policies and investments where market rate housing can be more attainable. Riverside County, we are doing that through in many different ways. We're doing it through these development fees I mentioned on the transportation side, which are an important component of that. We're doing that as well through investments of our ARPA dollars, our American Recovery Act dollars. I think it's really important to focus on that. VMT, SB 743, very landmark legislation. We're still working our way through the challenges also, particularly for us in Riverside County. The outcome we all want is more mode choices in our transportation, more affordability, attainability in our housing, higher paying jobs in our region as well to provide more opportunities for upward economic mobility so folks don't have to go out of the area for that.